Hey everybody, it's Miss Carrie with some fun facts about otters for you on this fabulous Friday. So, the first type of otter I'm going to talk with you about is the sea otter. So the sea otter is an animal that lives in the ocean, specifically some shallow coastal waters in the northern Pacific. So these animals are mostly known for floating on their backs. So why did they do that? Let's find out. So they sleep floating on the water, they eat floating on the water, and that's what they do. Let's see in this other book what we can find. Let's see, 37. So this book, which is in our encyclopedia group, it says that these animals float on their backs, and let's see. So they sleep on their backs because that's how they can float in the water and still breathe. They couldn't breathe if they floated on their tummies. So when they're napping, sea otters will often wrap themselves in kelp, which is a type of seaweed, to prevent drifting during their sleep. So that when they're hungry, they can dive to the ocean floor to get their food, and they can stay underwater for up to 4 minutes. I didn't know that. How long can you hold your breath? I know, I can't hold my breath for very long either. So, let's see. So, this is a question in this book. So, otters are a type of animal called a mustelid. So, many are playful. So, otters get the prize for being the most playful. River otters, so I think the only difference is that river otters live in a river and sea otters live in the ocean. So, river otters like to wrestle and splash together, and they like to slide. If you've ever seen pictures or videos from the zoo, you'll see them sometimes sliding. So they like to slide down mud banks in the summer, and during the winter, they'll slide down snow banks and scurry through snow tunnels. I did not know that. Let's see. What else can we learn? See what other pages? 39. Let's see. What else can we learn? So, another question in this book is, why does a sea otter carry a rock? So, sea otters eat seafood. Their diet includes fish, octopuses, and squids. But they also eat a lot of shellfish, which include abalones, clams, crabs, sea snails, and mussels. Sea otters grab shellfish with their front paws. So, to open a hard shell of a shellfish, a sea otter will put a rock on its chest, so that then the sea otter can use its paws to pound the shellfish on the rock. So that's how they open their food. That's so interesting. I never knew that. Oh, they're such neat animals. So, about how big are otters? So, they can weigh about as much as 2 4-year-old children. So one thing that I saw, let me look at this other book, which is called Sea Otters. They weigh, let's see, I know I saw it in this book. So they probably weigh maybe about 20 to 40 pounds, maybe. That might be how much they weigh. Yeah. Okay, so there are 13 species or types of otter in the world. Most live mainly in freshwater rivers, but 2 species almost always live in salty seawater. The marine otter lives along the Pacific coast of South America, so it lives below the equator. And the other sea otter rarely leaves the ocean. And they're also the only otter species that have their babies in the water. So river otters have their babies on land. That is really neat. So this map shows you where some of the sea otters live. And this says that they move clumsily on land and rarely come out of the water, unlike other otters, which can move on land. So they have a hard time getting around on land because they're used to swimming in the water. So here's a picture of a sea otter in the kelp, like we talked about earlier. So that keeps them from drifting too much. And another neat thing is that their babies, trying to find a picture. Yep, here's a mama and the baby. So the baby will sleep on the mama's tummy while the mama sleeps on her back in the water. So it's kind of like human babies too. Human babies like to sleep on mama's chest. Mine did. So says male sea otters live an average of 10 to 15 years, while female sea otters live an average of 15 to 20. So the females live longer. And this is a picture of lots of sea otters together. So they sometimes will swim together and create almost a raft for themselves. So how does an otter spend its time? 11 hours are spent resting, playing, or sleeping. So they like to sleep a lot. 8 hours of feeding and 5 hours of grooming. So that means they're washing themselves and making themselves clean. My goodness, they must be really clean. So they wake up in the morning and they start to hunt and feed. And after a rest at midday, they feed for a few hours more in the afternoon. Mothers with babies or pups may also wait to feed in the night. So grooming is very important because their outer fur is less waterproof when it is dirty or matted. So they have to make sure it's clean because it makes it more waterproof. So that means that the water doesn't make them cold, so it doesn't sink in. So when it's time for bed, they'll often form rafts, which is where a lot of them float together. So they roll over and over to wrap their bodies in kelp so they do not drift away from the raft while they sleep. And some sea otters in Alaska actually haul out onto land and sleep together for warmth. Then, of course, we talked about how they use tools. They use rocks to open their food. And they can also communicate by making sounds. They'll whistle or whine to show anger and frustration, and they hiss or growl to warn predators. And babies, they'll cry to get their mom's attention. And a mother, this cry from the baby can be heard for miles. So a mother can find her lost pup if it gets away. So those are some fun facts about otters for your Friday. If your parents have, social media, they can look at some of the zoos, and the zoos will often post pictures and videos of their otters playing because they love to play. Some videos that I've seen, they've had otters in like swimming pool with ice, so they like to dive among the ice when it's in summer. And they like to dive and slide. So check out some cool videos of otters today. They'll make you smile. So I hope you have an awesome weekend, guys, and we'll see you next week when we talk about elephants. So I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.